What's going on YouTube? Kronos here and welcome back to the PSO2 video. So it's finally here, episode 5 is out. Tons of people are excited about the new content, but I figured I'd get this video out as soon as I possibly could. We're going to talk about Hero, kind of similar to what I did with the bouncer video where I kind of showed my combos and where I use them, so on and so forth. People really enjoyed that, so I figured why even mess with the formula? We'll go ahead and go into Hero in the same sort of way. Now, I will admit I have less experience with Hero than I do with bouncer. Not much is obvious, but I did play Hero for a good chunk of time. Conceptually, it's not too difficult to understand. It's just more about execution overall. Though there are a lot of things people do incorrectly, and I figured showing it off in a video would probably be the easiest way to go ahead and get it taken care of or rectified. So let's go ahead and get started. And in case anyone's curious about what the heck is attacking this rock bear right now, my mag is stealthed, and he has Megid set to his attack, and I'm also using a mag excite ring, which is a very, very underrated ring that has my mag attack a lot more often, as you can see. Hits it for like 23k, so it's pretty solid. So first things first, just to clarify a few things, Hero has released in its, not its vanilla format, but it looks like it's one iteration higher. Oh, wrong emote. Sorry about that, guys. One iteration higher, meaning it's got a few buffs, but not all of them. So TMG buff doesn't seem to be there from what I understand, though I will go over what you would do with the TMG buff versus without it, and kind of what's useful and where. Right now, Hero, you do want to use all weapons for the most part in most situations. Currently, you probably want to shy away from TMGs for the most part, unless you really need the range itself. Actually, I think there's only really one quest I can think of off the top of my head that would be really good for, and it's for an emergency quest, or sorry, an urgent quest that we currently do not have yet. So TMGs are mostly shelved unless you're dealing with resistances on enemies. Other than that, we'll talk a little bit about how those work out. Now, Hero uses 3 weapons. You've got Sword, TMG, and Talus. So the 3 weapons you're going to use, you want all 3 of them. Yes, you can focus on using one of those weapons overall, but you really want all 3 of them if you want to be able to play Hero optimally. But you want to play, or I guess technically yes, you want to play Hero optimally, as you want to use all 3 weapons. Kind of similar to Bouncer in a sense where you can play one weapon if you really want to, but you really want to use all 3. So Hero's combos kind of work, and this is very similar if you've never actually paid too much attention to how melee combat works in this game for swords. Just melee combat in general. The game works on a 3-hit combo system itself. So 1, 2, 3, that third attack doing the most damage and the most PP recovery on all of your normal attacks. So in most cases, you want to weave that into the combos you're using. There are 2 combos you're going to use the absolute most. That would be, actually it's not called Vapor Bullet here. Let me make sure I get the proper name for it. That would be Bullet Blitz. So if I can show you guys, so let's say we're in front of the target here. We Bullet Blitz back and back forward. Since we're close enough, we can hit him with the third combo afterwards. Pretty easy to do. Also have some iframes on using Bullet Blitz. As you can see, it's not too heavy on the PP that's used for it. And you got a little bit of PP generation back. So pretty solid move, pretty solid combo overall. Fairly nice. Also, I get this question all the time too. In case you're wondering what those blades are around my mag itself, that is my level 200 ability, Special Melee Dance. So just gives me some damage boost, pretty nice, and does some damage around me. That's one of the first combos you use. The second one is probably one of your best combos you can use, and it's going to be with, is this Rising Slash still? Yes, this is still Rising Slash. It's going to be with Rising Slash, but there's a little bit of a trick to Rising Slash. We're going to move over here so I can see if I can demonstrate it, because I'm not perfect with it. It's kind of difficult to do. It's basically, people call Rising Slash +1. You're going to essentially, there's a few states of Rising Slash. If you just pop it once, you just toss your sword in the air. Excuse me, a little bit of hiccup. If you hold it down for a second, you do a sword slash. Now, I just actually did what you really want to do. So if you hold it down, or you press it for just a second, you throw the sword up. If you let it go, as soon as you go into the air, you come down immediately afterwards. What you're looking for is there's a single slash that you will do while you're in the air. That's when you want to let go of the ability. So I'm going to try it now. Not exactly the best at it. It takes a bit of work to get the timing down just right, but it's okay. I actually accidentally autoed after it, but it was right there. That slash you're looking for. That was missing there. It's kind of like almost two-handed that you slash with it. If you can take it a little slower, maybe you slow down the video for a second. I missed it there. That's what you're looking for. The idea here, and we'll switch over to TMGs really quick just to get our PP back. The idea here is that you actually want to get off 2 of these into a third normal. This is if you've got a target that's downed, that's not moving too much, And the kind of nice thing about doing this this combo itself, let's see if we can target his head, is you can position yourself with it. It's better to hold Rising Slashes for a split second longer than the +1 than it is to let it go early on, from what I remember, just because you want that early damage. Now, one thing you'll see that's kind of a meme that people will meme about all the time is holding Rising Slash. Though you'll hear it, you should never hold Rising Slash. Not necessarily true. There is one situation where holding Rising Slash works out, and it's only if you're in a situation where touching the ground is a problem. You should know by now, or one of the mechanics of Hero is Hero Boost, and taking damage does have you lose your Hero Boost, which is a 60% damage loss. It's pretty substantial. I believe if you take 20% of your HP in a or 20% of your HP in a single hit or something along those lines, or in a short period of time, you lose your hero boost, and you really don't want that to happen. So if you're in a situation where the ground is going to have you take damage, you need to be in the air, and you want to continue to deal damage, holding Rising Slash for a few minutes, or for a few seconds, is not the end of the world. But if you can hit the ground, you want to. You absolutely want to be able to. So these are really the sword combos you use for the most part. If you're far away from your target, I forgot to mention this, Bullet Blitz, you can combo it into just pressing a weapon action, which is kind of nice. So if you're still away from your target, you need to go ahead and play a bit safer. You want to make sure your PP stays relatively high. Insert comment about PP joke. It's fairly easy to just get away with doing this, and it's actually pretty good on damage too. Not the best, but not the worst. So that's really all you're going to use for sword. Mobbing is not too difficult to talk about, really, when it comes to sword. In reality, if you need to gap close, you've got, I think it's Flash Trick is still called here. Yeah, Trick Flash, excuse me. And it also has no vertical movement, something to keep in mind, I believe. I don't think this has any vertical movement, actually. Oh, no, it does. Okay, excuse me. You do have vertical and horizontal movement, so this will take you up or down, depending upon if you're locked onto a target, or if that target can be hit from any sort of range specifically. If you notice on the ground, I'm stuck, but in the air, I move into my target's exact spot. So that's pretty nice. And other than that, really, that's going to be your gap closer. And then you have your brightness end, which does actually have a guard frame on the front of it, keep in mind. So if you have have damage coming towards you, not only can you get a hit in, but you can also deal damage to your target as well, which is kind of nice. And I mean, again, it still follows the same sort of thought process. If you're mobbing, say, getting 2 of these in is still pretty good to get into a normal, or if you're gap closing into a mobbing situation, you notice I ran out of PP there. You actually have to have extra PP to be able to do the second part of that ability. But say we're gap closing into our target, into a brightness end, we still want to get that third normal off. So pretty nice, fairly strong. Outside of that, really, as far as combos go, unless you have to deal with a situation where the downtime is very, very limited, you usually want to get that third normal off. But if the downtime is limited, you're going to have some time to regen PP, but just swap into TMGs or something like that. It's a good idea to just go ahead and go ham and forget about the normal. Just to get the damage out, it's not a bad idea, because it's better than trying to maintain PP in a situation where you're just going to have to stand around waiting to be able to hit the boss anyway. So that's pretty much everything when it comes down to sword. That's what you're going to be playing the most when it comes to hero, is you're primarily playing sword. The other weapons are only supporting that. From there, we're going to move over to TMGs. So TMGs got a lot of a buff over on JP, and I'm not sure exactly how much of that buff we have on NA, so I'm going to talk about what you would do before the buff and what you do usually after. TMGs are pretty easy. The normal attack is just a normal attack. If you are locked onto a weak spot, it's pretty nice. Really, right now, only thing you're going to use these for on the global server is going to be for Dragon once we get it as a urgent quest. Just because you can actually just lock onto its head and just pop it in the head really, really easily for consistent damage all the time, because that weak spot is so weak and we have increased damage to weak spots. It's really, really nice to be able to do. Outside of that, really, you have a mechanic with hero, which is the hero dodge. I didn't talk about it specifically on sword, and I totally forgot about it. But if you step through an ability, you get a an indicator. I'm sorry, you step through ability, you hear a little bit of a sheen, and you can follow up with a normal attack. With TMGs, you get the same thing. However, you have one other ability that actually allows you to follow up, which increases your damage. So if you actually get through, that's the wrong ability. I'm sorry. If you dodge an ability and pop, it's not called Brand New Star, is it? It's called Starfire Squall. step through an ability and pop Starfire Squall, it's actually increased damage. So if you're someone who's playing TMGs, get used to stepping through ability to try to get into Starfire Squall instead of stepping through ability and trying to normal attack, because it's really not that great on damage, your normal attack on TMGs versus Starfire Squall. But that's really it for TMGs. Other than that, they're just going to be a PP battery for you. You can switch to them fairly easily. I know one question a lot of people tend to have is, do I need to be able to switch between my weapons consistently? If you're using mouse and keyboard and you can swap weapons fairly fast and not lose out any damage, it's not a big deal. But if you're playing controller and you're kind of fumbling to switch weapons, you might want to get used to the PAs that swap your weapons and kind of plan that out. But since we can hot swap weapons fairly easily, it's not a huge deal. Now, Talus, unfortunately to say, I know you guys, some of you Talus heroes out there wanted to play Talus specifically. Talus is very much a supportive weapon for hero, primarily because, well, I guess technically it's not totally true. If I remember correctly, it depends on the buffs that they receive, but Talus does have a single PA that does provide some of the highest damage single target by just spamming it, and it's a fast PP dump, so there's that. But primarily what Talus does very well is it actually provides you dot damage, meaning damage over time. You can pop these two PAs, so you see that you got a lock on here, and I kind of spin this. If I throw this on my target, and I switch weapons, they still stay there and damage the target. So setting this up is actually pretty nice. But on top of that as well, I also have the jet wheel, which also stays on my target. So while all this is up on my target, I'm still dealing more damage. So it's actually really nice to do something like popping this into popping this and then switching weapons if you're attacking a weak spot for massive damage. So that's what you're going to see a lot of heroes tending to do for the most part, is how Talus is really used. Outside of that, really, most of the time, if you're just doing regular damage, you're going to use sword just because of how versatile it is and how much damage you can deal with it. As for Talus's step action, just, you know, stepping through an ability and hitting your normal attack is going to be increased damage. That's just the case for hero overall. But that's really about it when it comes to hero. I'm trying to think of anything else that was super useful or anything along those lines. Not really, no. Oh, there was one last thing. If you're someone who's trying to push for extra damage, maybe you're going for solos, things of that sort, one thing you want to be mindful of are precasting situations. So precasting refers to using an ability before you actually need it, if you can actually hit the target. So what you'll find, and if you've seen some of my solos personally, when I use Starling's Fall when I'm not touching a target, specifically the one where I'm fighting Elder, I use Starling's Fall for the iframes and precasting, because by the time the ability goes off, his arms are completely around my target, and I deal a bunch of damage to them, making the ability very strong. Hero has a really, really good precast tool in its weapon action on sword. If you hold it, it does massive damage. However, you really don't want to sit there and hold this ability while you could be hitting the target doing other things. So what you want to do is set up precasts in situations like, say, Deus, whenever he's about to smash the ground. You may be able to get away with doing something like stepping through one ability and setting something up like this. You might have to be really careful about it. I think it's actually not the best thing to do for Deus specifically, but if you can set it up just right, be able to get massive damage off on his core and then keep DPSing him. There's one other ability as well. I'm not sure how this one works out. This is something that we theorized in stream today, was utilizing what is it called, bright, or was it, I had a brightness end, but bright blade buster, utilizing that ability as a precast situation. Because you can't hit your target at first, you can set yourself up for the secondary hit, and then when it becomes available, let it go and move into your actual combo. So just little things to keep in mind. There are other little ways of using hero, smaller optimizations you can make, but those are the ones you're going to use most. One other thing to note is when they do buff TMGs, just pressing normal attack is not going to be the best way to deal damage. It actually buffs this specific PA here. Now, I might be wrong. I'm not sure if they've already buffed this PA or not, but this will be your strongest single target for TMGs. And then you will, whenever you step through an ability, you will counter with this as well. If you're someone who's using specifically TMGs, this is also a pretty good tool for mobbing, as that giant, I say like it's a bit of an AoE, so it's like kind of like a cone in front of you, or like a funnel essentially. Not a funnel. That's what I'm looking for. A cylinder in front of you, basically. So you can do this through a bunch of targets and actually deal some damage. So it's pretty nice. That, and also step into your reload on your TMGs, just so you reload faster. If you guys notice, me just burn some PP really quick here. Alright, cool. If I reload normal... Oh, actually accidentally did my proper reload. If I reload normal, reload's pretty slow. But if I hit it with my just attack, it reloads much faster. So, just small things to keep in mind. But that's really about it, guys. Hopefully this was informative. Helps you guys out. Helps get rid of some of the negative stigma around people not knowing all of this stuff instantaneously when it releases. I know a lot of that's been going around recently, and not everyone's into reading frame data like I am, or some of my friends are, and not everyone has a network of people to be able to share that information with them. Technically, I find that it's mostly, I don't want to say it's just my responsibility, but responsibility as content creators themselves. If we have this information and we can share it to you guys, that we do the best we can to do so. So here we are. I'm also going to be tossing a link to the skill tree that I personally use for Hero in the video description. Now, granted, you don't have to use it exactly, but there are some skills that are more or less non-negotiable. You can play around with a few others, specifically just things to note offhand. TMG attack, PP preservation, Hero flash guard, and total attack up. Those you can kind of mess around with. Victory shout as well. But everything else mostly is going to be staple for that build itself. Well, thanks again for joining me, guys. Hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to toss them in the comments below. Again, a like on the video is much appreciated and absolves you of half of your ad block guilt, and the other half is absolved by subscribing. Both are completely free, and they help me out a ton. If you guys want to keep up with the content as it's releasing, you can always click on the bell icon to be notified of when a video pops up, as well as any notifications in my community page. I've been trying to post whenever videos go live there, since they've been a bit rocky at the moment. And if you're not a huge fan of that, you can always follow me over on Twitter, where I usually tweet out about when the live streams go up, or in Discord when I try to post new videos when they go live there as well. You guys have fun in episode 4. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Peace out. Also, I said episode 4. I meant episode 5. Had to fix that before you signed off. Later, guys.